quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You can see the writing on the pavement. Young kids, they're growing up in basements. Online, a whole new generation. I'ma make mine, so you better go take it. Always, they need a new replacement. Decentralized, can't contain it. We're changing lives, yeah, upgrading. Call it suicide of the older generation. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, it's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think that the world is too anxious, we'll adapt, evolve, survive, and save it. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong.
Welcome to another episode of the Tristan Law Show. If it's your first time, welcome. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I am Tristan Law. Today, we're going to be talking about the importance of independent pro wrestling as it pertains to the pro wrestling industry. We are going to talk about the brief history of indie wrestling, the creative freedom that indie wrestling has, the diversity, the freedom, the indie wrestling in your local community, and much, much more. Right now, I am on the road to 100 followers, just 100. And once we get to 100, we're going to move the goalpost and then continue going from there. But right now, I'm looking for you. If you're watching this video right now, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Subscribe. Just subscribe. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, especially if it's your first time here or you occasionally jump in and out the video. Just go ahead and just subscribe. We're looking to get to 100 followers. Once we get to 100 followers, we work from there. They say your first 100 is difficult. But have you ever been to an independent pro wrestling show? Have you ever been to an independent pro wrestling show? If you have not been to an independent pro wrestling show, by the end of this, I think you're probably going to be pretty convinced that you should go to see an independent pro wrestling show. But just to give you an idea of what happens in independent pro wrestling, it's not like WWE or AEW or anything big like that. It's on a much smaller scale. It's usually mom and pop, but it's still worth to watch. Go watch independent pro wrestling, and let's look at the brief history of independent pro wrestling. I have it written down right here. Independent pro wrestling in the U.S., I'm only talking about the U.S. because they have it in Japan as well too. It originated from the regional outlaw culture in which if you were an NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, you were considered an outlaw. These were smaller promotions that were not aligned with the NWA. They didn't recognize the NWA championship, not at all. So, okay, good. Just want to make sure everything's still good. They didn't recognize the NWA championship. They did their own things. These early groups were precursors to what you would consider today independent pro wrestling. They offered opportunities still to future stars that would eventually get into the NWA. The modern independent wrestling circuit took its shape in the mid to late 1980s, flourishing after 1990. These promotions aimed to recreate the traditional territorial wrestling experience after many major territories were sucked up by the WWF or went out of business, such as WCW did back in the day. So what happened was that Vince McMahon, when he ran WWF back in the day, he put a lot of those indie companies out of business because he wanted to absorb all of them. He wanted all their wrestlers. So he's kind of part of the reason for why the NWA isn't what it is, kind of why independent pro wrestling became really big, because if you weren't in the WWE, you needed some place to practice your craft. Some indies do tour, however, and they maintain consistent schedules, keeping the regional spirit alive. I want to take a look at some independent pro wrestling companies that are either still here or not here with us now. Just so you can have an idea, we're going to show you some video of what they offer. And the first one we're going to look at is Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, or PWG. It's one of the most influential independent promotions, known as the top destination for indie wrestlers. It has launched the career of many talents who are now stars in WWE and AEW. PWG, or Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, is also recognized for pioneering a distinctive, fast-paced wrestling style with chaotic, high-impact matches, which has become popular and influential globally. So some of the people that you might know that are that took part in PWG, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, are AJ Styles, who's with the WWE right now, Bryan Danielson, who was with the WWE but is now with AEW, Drew McIntyre, who's got a really big match coming up on Saturday against CM Punk, and you got Seth Rollins, who ironically is the referee in that match. He was a part of they were all parts of Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. The other one I want to take a look at, just to give you an idea as well too, is Evolve. Evolve was an influential indie promotion. It was inspired by Gabe Sapolsky's vision. His vision was similar to Paul Heyman's work with ECW. It focused on delivering high-quality wrestling with American and Japanese talent. Evolve became a feeder system for the WWE, and a feeder system meaning that, you know, the wrestlers would go there before they transitioned to the WWE to go to NXT. So right now in the WWE, it's NXT, and then you got Raw and SmackDown on one level, right? And the level below, which you call the minor leagues, right? The minor leagues would be NXT, and then below NXT would have been Evolve. They're a feeder company, and once you're good there, you're probably good enough for NXT, and then you move on from there. Evolve became a feeder system for WWE, and it marks its historical importance and showcases a diverse range of stars, including Darby Allin, who is in AEW today, and it highlighting its wide-reaching impact. In 2020, Evolve was absorbed by the WWE. So the WWE eventually bought up some of Evolve. And if you go to Peacock or the WWE Network, depending on where you live, you will be able to see exclusive or old school videos from Evolve. You'll actually see a lot of the wrestlers in Evolve that you would see on the television now in WWE, such as Austin Theory, Johnny Gargano, Ricochet, Giovanni Vinci, who was a part of Imperium. Wonder when he's coming back, but that's something to take a look at. And another one that I want to take a look at is Game Changer Wrestling. Game Changer Wrestling was founded in 1999. It blends hardcore wrestling with engaging characters and storylines. It recently gained significant popularity, becoming a top destination for talent. The promotion has been crucial for stars like Nick Gage and Matt Cardona, and introduced unique blood sport matches which have distinguished it in the world of pro wrestling. Some of the people that you may know from there are QT Marshall, Tama Tonga. Actually, those two names I just named, I didn't think about it then, but now the two names that I just named were actually alumni of Team 3D Academy, which is where I went. You also have a Private Party there with AEW, Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn. The Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, who they say are on their way to the WWE. So that's something that you could probably look forward there. But yeah, definitely between Evolve, that's no longer running, PWG, which is on a hiatus, and Game Changer Wrestling GCW. Those are definitely some of the top indie promotions out there. You know, indie meaning that they don't have that, you know, that big money behind them. Everything that they do is pretty much mom and pop and grassroots effort. When it comes to developing the future stars of pro wrestling, indie pro wrestling plays a huge part, as you can tell by some of the names that I just named. Indie wrestling serves as a platform for emerging wrestlers because it allows them to get their names out, right? So you can wrestle for the really small promotion that probably has maybe 50 to 100 people showing up to the show, or you can eventually progress to somebody like Game Changer Wrestling, to where they're putting 500, if not 1,000 people inside of the building. Independent pro wrestling is the best place for talent to develop their character and their in-ring persona and their moves before they happen to get to that next level. And I tell you this, once you get to WWE, they're going to train you the way that they want to train you. So it really doesn't matter what you know on the indies, but once you get to the WWE, they're going to train you in the WWE style. Some wrestlers that have transitioned from the indies to the mainstream and seen success are people like MJF. MJF currently wrestles for All Elite Wrestling, AEW, the number 2 pro wrestling company in the United States, here in the United States. And he started at a wrestling school in Long Island. And he made his name, and now he's probably one of the biggest heels or one of the biggest characters in pro wrestling today. Another one that I can personally speak about who transitioned from the indies and over to the mainstream is Damian Priest, who currently wrestles for the WWE, and he is in a match against Drew McIntyre this Saturday at SummerSlam. I wrestled Damian Priest way back in the day. Damian Priest has a documentary that's coming out this Saturday. I think it's on YouTube. I think it comes out 11 a.m. on YouTube. And I look forward to that because it has some of the old school ECPW footage. So Damian, I remember where Damian was, and Damian was always hungry. I always thought Damian was always a good wrestler in the ring. But at one day, something just clicked for him, and he risked it all, and put his body into shape. And now he's one of the biggest names in the WWE. So shout out to him. I hope he's doing well. I hope he continues to do well. But yeah, the indies are definitely a good place for people to start and for people to get some success. Looking at some of the creative freedom and innovation, and we are going to look at that. When I tell you that we are going to look at that, we are going to look at that, and you're going to be shocked at one of the things I'm going to show you in a little bit. But when it comes to the freedom that indie promotions have when it comes to storytelling and match types, is that they don't have networks like NBC or Fox or whatever television network it is dictating what they do. So they can pretty much go out there and do whatever it is that they want to do. I've seen pro wrestling shows that were based all around adult content. That will never fly on network television. When I mean adult content, there's porn stars out there, and you know, there's nudity, and that was something that I've seen way back in the day. You know, but they have that freedom because they don't have that corporate sponsors behind them. They don't have stock investors, you know, stockholders in the show telling them, oh, well, you know, you really can't do this. You can't get away with that. But because they're pretty much rogue or renegade or outlaw, like I said before, indie pro wrestling promotions get to pretty much get away with what they want. And speaking of getting away with what they want, some of the innovative ideas that originated on the indie scenes, golly, there's one match I want to show you now. We're going to look at it in clips. This match was from Joey Janela's Spring Break number 3, and this was took place in March 2017, and it involves the Invisible Man versus Invisible Stan. Now, you need to watch what I'm going to show you, okay? So to set the table for this match, you know, I'm never going to tell you. Let me go ahead and show you what's happening here.
Actually enable.
So here in the match here, you have Bryce Remsburg. He's currently a referee for AEW.
He's going to check Stan
And there's two people in the room with him, but you don't see them because they're invisible. You can listen to the fans. The fans are dumb excited for this. They are super excited for this. And there's nobody in the ring. That's the thing that's different to me. There's nobody in the ring, and they're super excited for it. Look at him. Look at him. He's there pantomiming like he's working with people in the ring. And he's telling them all to like relax or whatever the case may be. And it's like the people are just crazy. There's a table in the ring. I was watching this match this morning. I'm like, how would the table even break? And now he's getting ready to ring the bell, and the wrestlers are in the corner. If you are a wrestling fan, you're looking at this, you can kind of tell what is happening because of the moves that the referee is making. Let's take a look at another clip of that one. Of this. So now you got Bryce Remsburg, the referee. He's counting as he's going to be counting as the invisible wrestlers pin each other. But what they're doing is that they're countering each other's pins, and they're pinning each other back and forth. And when he's done, and then watch, the wrestler's down again, and another wrestler's down again, just doing moves, and now they're at a standoff.
I mean, both these guys,
they're at a standoff. And listen to the people. They're enjoying that. They're enjoying that. That's what they paid their money for, and they're loving it. You know, how can you tell them that their pro wrestling is wrong? Further in there, you want to see the tomfoolery that continues in this match? Look at this. So now, the invisible wrestlers, along with Bryce Remsburg, the referee, they're now standing on the balcony, and they're off. And look at the people. A bunch of EDPs, right? A bunch of EDPs. They just all threw themselves down onto the floor. And because a fake, well, I don't want to say fake, I hate using that word, but the invisible wrestler got thrown on top of them, both of them, and they're both down. Look at it again, look at it again. And all the people just collapse with them. They're having a great time. You can't tell them nothing. You can't tell them nothing. You can't tell these people right now that they're not getting their money's worth. They don't see the wrestlers. The reason why Bryce gets to see the wrestlers, because he has the glasses on. He's wearing those glasses, right? And I think he called it bad boy vision because it's Joey Janela's Spring Break. That's the name of the show. Joey Janela's a wrestler, and he has like a bad boy gimmick. Ending the match now. This is the finish of the match right now. And you got the wrestler's doing the big bump now, and he's going for the count for the 2, and it's only a false finish. And all the people, they're into it. They're into it, saying that it's only a 2 count. And now look at the foolishness. Now there's one person, and the table breaks. How does the table break? I don't know. I don't know how the table breaks. But now we got the 1, the 2, and the 3, and the match is over. Listen to the people. Listen to the people. They're loving that. You can't tell them jack. You can't tell them jack squat. They're loving every single minute of it. And I think that's what makes that special. Be 100% honest with you, it's not my style of wrestling, okay? In the WWE, that would not fly. But for those people there that spent their hard-earned money, and there wasn't 4 or 5 people in that arena. There's maybe at least 5, maybe 600, anywhere between 500 to 1,000 people in there. And they paid their money, and they were all into it. Yet there was no actual wrestlers in the ring. Everybody got to use their imagination. Is it silly? Yes. Is it hokey? Yes. But you know what? It's probably one of those things that you got to see in person. And that's what makes the indies so special, because that's something that would fly. I've seen wrestlers wrestle a mop. I've seen wrestlers wrestle a little girl. I've seen all kinds of things happen in independent pro wrestling that would not fly. When you're looking at diversity and representation in pro wrestling, it's huge in pro wrestling. And I think the reason why it's huge in pro wrestling is because there's so many independent pro wrestling companies out there. Everybody just pretty much has to carve out their corner of independent pro wrestling. So I remember back in the day, maybe 2013, there was a pro wrestling promotion that featured mostly black people, and it was like hood style wrestling. It was legit wrestling. There was a ring there that people could wrestle, but they were like all hood gangsters, people that you would find like on the block. And I actually wanted to be a part of it, but it's not my personality. It's not my personality. I might have grew up in the hood, but I'm not hood. So I couldn't, that wasn't something that I was really too interested in doing. Some promotions that highlight or that cater to specific communities are Kaiju Big Battel. And I say Big Battel because it's Battel, not battle, but Battel. They wrestle in like costumes, and it's almost like Godzilla type deal. And in the middle of the ring, they have a mat, which is like of a city street. They got buildings, and what they do is they fight through the buildings and destroy the buildings, and eventually, one of the good guys hopefully wins. Another one they have is Effie's Big Gay Brunch. You normally see that doing WrestleMania weekend, doing the collective. And that one features it highlights a lot of LGBTQ plus wrestlers. There's an audience for them. There are some wrestling promotions that can't look past the fact that they are LGBTQ and won't book them, but now they have their own home, and I think that's pretty cool. There are all female pro wrestling companies like Shimmer, and then there's CZW Combat Zone Wrestling, which pretty much handles a lot of the hardcore deathmatch style wrestling, but they don't do so much of that anymore these days. Looking at how pro wrestling and independent pro wrestling primarily is in the community, when you watch WWE and you watch AEW, they're huge in the community. They're going out to read books to kids. They're doing Make-A-Wish. They're doing donations. They're participating in food drives. They're talking to athletes to promote them to want to do good, to want to stay in school. But you don't know, but your local indie does that as well too. Listen to me. If you live anywhere in America, I'm only going to use America because I can't talk about anywhere else. There's probably an independent pro wrestling company someplace close to you. And if you're looking for an easy fundraiser, the easy fundraiser is pro wrestling. Pancake breakfasts don't work no more, right? 50-50s don't really work. Bingo night doesn't really work. Pro wrestling works. I remember being a part of an organization while I was a pro wrestler, and that organization was always looking for fundraising ideas. And I used to always say, do pro wrestling. But nobody wanted to listen to me because they felt that pro wrestling was silly. Pro wrestling is huge. One of the companies that I used to wrestle for, ECPW, East Coast Pro Wrestling, they were huge when it comes into the fundraising. They do St. Jude's. They do fundraisers for the Knights of Columbus. They do fundraisers for sick kids. I've seen all kinds of different things that pro wrestling has done in the community. I've been at pro wrestling birthday parties to where somebody's kid loves wrestling so much, and they probably don't have the money to get WWE or AEW to come and do a show in their backyard. But if you got money, not too much and not too little, you can have your local independent pro wrestling company come to your house or come to your venue, or you can go to them if they already have a venue, and they could put on a birthday party show for you. These are some of the things that independent pro wrestling does, but you don't know because you're probably stuck on WWE and AEW. Yo, give them independent pro wrestling companies the same exact love that you give AEW. Give me a second. Let me get a little bit of water. The fan experience alone, when you go to an independent show, is second to none. Okay? It's the top tier. It's the creme de la creme. When you go to an independent show, most times they won't have the guardrails or the barriers that separates the fans from the ring. Okay? That gives you the opportunity to feel like you are a part of the action. One of the first pro wrestling companies I wrestled for when I came back to New York was BWO, Body Slam Wrestling Organization. And they didn't have guardrails around the ring. So some of the times we would almost be in the laps of the people that paid their money to come to the show. That's like going to SeaWorld and sit and going to watch the Killer Whale show and you're directly in the splash zone. That's what it's like. Oh, somebody said hi. Hi, Different Mind Gaming. Hey, how's it going? Welcome, subscribe, and thanks for watching. I hope you stick around. Independent pro wrestling gives you a very intimate presentation. You're there. You're close by because the venues are not that big. It's not Madison Square Garden. It's not, Giant MetLife Stadium. It's not. It's probably a local bingo hall, maybe a high school, but some places do guardrails, right? Some places, the local athletic commission, I think in New York, they make us have to have guardrails which separate the fans from the wrestlers. But don't let that count you out. It's interactive because when you go to an indie show, and even if they have guardrails that separate you from the fans, separate the wrestlers from the fans, sometimes when the wrestlers are out there cutting a promo or the wrestlers are wrestling, they will involve you. If you're really into it, believe me when I tell you that if you're really into it, the pro wrestlers in the ring will involve you in the show. Usually do an independent pro wrestling show, you get an intermission to where you can stretch your legs. And that's the time when the wrestlers come out. They have their t-shirts, they might have buttons, they might have their merchandise. The same merchandise that you can go to WWEshop.com or AEWshop.com to support Jon Moxley in AEW or Seth Rollins in WWE. These wrestlers don't have that. So they get their own shirts with their own money. They bring them to the show and they sell them. Buy the shirt. Support them. Because that shirt that you buy today, you won't even know how much it could be worth tomorrow. And the reason why I said that you won't know how much it could be worth tomorrow is because you don't know if that person that you're watching is going to be a big name star or not. So support indie wrestling. Go sit. Usually as well, too, there's no seating structure, meaning that front row is more expensive than, the nosebleeds or the farther back seats. So if that's not the case, the earlier you show up, the closer you get to sit, okay? And I encourage you to show up early so you can sit close. Because if you're paying $20 for a ticket for an independent pro wrestling show, that same $20 at a WWE event won't put you any place close to where you can sit. And you're probably sitting all the way in the back. When you look at the financial and business aspects of independent pro wrestling, it's tough running an independent pro wrestling show. Why? I want to run an independent pro wrestling show one day. I want to have my own independent pro wrestling company. I want to have my own independent pro wrestling school where I can help, people that are just starting out and then send them off to a bigger school. I want to have a place where people can come and train as well, too. But I'd be doing that all out of my own pocket. I don't have any big sponsors out here supporting me, right? The challenge is when it comes to promoting independent pro wrestling, I don't have Sirius XM promoting me. I wouldn't have a commercial doing football. I could have that, but that's going to require a lot of money that I don't have. So what do? Social media, posters in the town, utilizing the wrestlers to promote the show because there's people that follow all the wrestlers, okay? And sometimes getting on a podcast like mine because I have a little following that can help you promote your independent pro wrestling. That's some of the challenge that you have there because you have to pay for the building. You got to pay for the wrestlers. And all you do is you hope that enough people show up to the building and promote. I always say if there's nobody showing up to the building, it's the promoter's fault because the promoter probably didn't book a big enough show. A lot of promoters still use posters, but I feel that promotions are becoming a thing of yesterday, especially if the pro wrestling show is in a place where there's not that much foot traffic. If there's not that much foot traffic, you need to rely on social media. Because when you wake up in the morning, and I'm talking to you, when you wake up in the morning, where's the first place that you go? You might go to the bathroom. And what do you bring with you? Don't say the newspaper, you're a liar, you bring your phone. And because you bring your phone, that's a perfect place for you to advertise to people, especially when it's early in the morning. You make your posters compelling, you make your video, your advertisement compelling, and maybe you can get somebody to watch your show. The way that indie wrestlers manage their careers and their merchandise and their bookings, it's all done by themselves. Some pro wrestling companies that I've been a part of, they've had like stencils and different stuff like that where or they would have shirts that were made on demand. And when I would go to the show, people would buy my shirt. They would give me a cut of the shirt. But other than that, that was all handled by me. Your independent pro wrestler is pretty much just like, your local independent pro wrestler is pretty much just like going down to Home Depot and finding a guy to help you do some work for the day. It's a journeyman. He's got his tools. His tools is his bag. Maybe I could do an episode explaining what's in a bag, a wrestler's bag. Maybe something I could do down the line. But, the wrestler has his tools. He comes to the show and he works for himself. He promotes himself to the promoter and to the audience to get booked on the show. They, the way that you get bookings, and I talked about that a little bit before in a couple episodes ago about how I became a pro wrestler, and you can too, is that you just pretty much have to show up to the shows. You got to network with different wrestlers. It's not easy for your independent pro wrestler. So when you go to the independent pro wrestling show and you see somebody that you like, find out what their social media is, follow them on social media, and buy a t-shirt. I promise you, just to follow alone goes a long way. When you're looking at mainstream companies, how they incorporate indie wrestling styles and talents, you're looking at WWE or AEW or even Impact Wrestling. No, they're not Impact Wrestling anymore, TNA. What they do is they utilize pro wrestlers on the independent scene as extras. So when you're watching pro wrestlers fight, like in WWE, and then you need somebody to pull them apart, or somebody gets hurt doing the show and they have medical staff run out there, 9 times out of 10 that's some independent wrestler from the local area. And to a lot of people that are independent wrestlers, that's cool because now we get to see our faces on TV. I never got to have that opportunity, but I know a lot of people that have gotten to get that opportunity. Another opportunity a lot of these independent wrestlers get on mainstream pro wrestling, like WWE, AEW, or TNA wrestling, is that sometimes they get put into a match on TV. Sometimes it's a squash match. A squash match is a match where you have 2 established wrestlers trying to, level up their stock, make their stock worth a little bit more, become a little bit more popular with the fans, whether popularity means to boo them, to not like them, or to like them. They come into the ring and they squash the 2 wrestlers. The matches usually aren't long, usually no more than 5 to 10 minutes, but they get that opportunity, and 10 minutes is a stretch, and they get that opportunity to showcase their talent to the mainstream pro wrestling fans, the mainstream company as well too, and maybe sometimes they can get a booking out of that match as well too. When it comes to the future of pro wrestling on the indies, I remember when independent pro wrestling wasn't digital. I remember saying that, hey, I remember when I first started wrestling, if you wanted to keep up with my independent pro wrestling show when I wrestled for BWO, you had to buy a DVD. You had to either buy it from the website or you had to come to the show and buy the DVD there. Now it's so much easier. You can just type in independent pro wrestling on YouTube and you can get a whole plethora of what you're looking for. You can go to it's not Fight TV anymore, Thriller.tv, and you can watch independent pro wrestling there. They have IWTV, independent pro wrestling TV, where you can watch independent pro wrestling there. If it's something that you like or something that you want to get into, you can do it. If you are watching this right now and you are located anywhere in the world and you want to know where a good independent pro wrestling company is, leave a message in the chat. Say, hey, Tristan, I want to know where I can find a local independent pro wrestling in my area because I want to give it a try. And I will pick the best of the best and I will send you there. And if you don't like it, you're just a hard person to please. It's not, you are going to be able to see matches that are just like WWE, but they just don't have that WWE money. You're going to be able to see a show that is just like AEW, but they don't have that AEW money. But they have the heart and they have the passion. So, have you ever been to an independent pro wrestling show? If not, I hope that I've convinced you to go, because indie pro wrestling is where it is. Feel free to drop your messages in the chat. I will respond to messages whether it is live or not live. On Saturday at noon, I'm having a special WWE SummerSlam preview show, so I encourage you to be there. I will also be back on Friday. That's right, doing 3 shows. 3 shows this week. I want you to go ahead and subscribe to me. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate the time that you spent with me here. And follow independent pro wrestling. And enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. See you soon. I'm Tristan Law, and thanks for watching.